We rent out a theater for our Sunday morning services. It's pretty big. You guys have seen that in all of my videos and my multi-views and whatnot. But we also have our own church building with our own auditorium that we use for all of our other events. And I figured, why not give you guys a tech rundown of everything that we use in here? Now, keep in mind that most of the tech has been here for 9 years since it was built, and it was built to support a much smaller church than we are now. So it's not all necessarily recommendations, but if you're a smaller church on a budget, maybe you'll still get some ideas. So let's take a look at it. Also, I'm still kind of new to this vlogging thing, so you guys let me know down in the comments if you like it, if you hate it, if you want to see more of it, you know, you get the drill. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by showing you guys this room. So you can see behind me, we've actually got a small stage and a projector screen and our lights set up, and so that's where we actually will run things if we have events in here. But you can see the rest of the room is actually just set up in these little squares that are perfect for small groups, or we have a program that we run here called Alpha. It's super awesome. Check out Alpha if you haven't heard of it. We rarely set the chairs up in rows in here unless we're having like a wedding or some other event that kind of necessitates that. We just find that having it set up in these squares is great for Sunday morning mingling or small groups or our youth group throughout the week or whatever it is. We also have a balcony up there, which is not super big. It's got about 2 rows of chairs, and yeah, that's about it. Again, this was to support us when we were a much smaller church than we are now, and we still do some events in here, but nothing that has our entire church body. So the tech in here is definitely built to support that, and you'll kind of see it as I run through it. So with that being said, let's check out our tech booth over here. Okay, so up first, let's actually check out our soundboard. This is the Soundcraft SI Impact, and you know, it's a digital mixer. You know, it gets the job done. It's nothing to write home about. We don't have it plugged into any kind of Wave server or Dante or anything like that. It's not anything crazy, but it gets the job done for us. It's got 32 inputs, and those are actually set up in our rack room. I'll show you guys that in a little bit, although it's got some on the back for some of our wireless mics that we actually have based up here. Again, it's nothing fancy, but it has served us well over the past 9 years or so, and I think will continue to do so. Now, I think if you are looking to spend something in this budget and get something about this size, I would probably recommend going more with an X32 or something of that nature, even if purely just because it seems like more people in the church world use it, so you'll get a little bit more support from people using it. Obviously, that's an old mixer, so I don't necessarily recommend buying that right now anyway, but just, you know, if you're trying to think about something that's similar to this. Now, what's interesting about this being a shared space that's used for all sorts of things, whether that be youth group or Bible studies or whatever, is that a lot of people touch this soundboard. You may notice our nice little do not touch the soundboard sign back there that we have to install. It's a real fun time. But that means we really can't make this too complicated for people to walk in and just start using. So we keep a couple of the pages pretty straightforward and try to keep this thing as user-friendly as possible. We've got quite a number of people who actually need to use it week to week, day to day. So we don't do anything super fancy, super crazy, but it gets the job done for us. Moving down the row here, this is actually something that we have upgraded just the other day, if you guys saw my reel on Instagram. And this is actually our new lighting setup. We used to have a super old little DMX controller that we had over here, but we recently switched over to LightKey running on a Mac Mini M4. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with LightKey, it is a Mac-only software used for controlling lights and setting up lights. And I won't tell you it is the best lighting software on the planet, but it gets the job done and it's pretty user-friendly. So if you don't have a ton of lights and you're looking for something to get started and run everything for you, but that's a little bit more advanced than just a couple of faders you'll get on the DMX controller, LightKey might be an option for you. One of the main reasons we upgraded to LightKey over the DMX controller that we had before is that we're actually going to start replacing our lights, add a couple of lights in the balcony in order to support some of the things that we do in here. You may not be able to tell, but some of those are actually going out completely, or some of the colors aren't working. So it's really giving us trouble. The other thing is that that DMX controller only had a handful of actual faders, which meant that we couldn't address each of these lights individually, which for the most part is not an issue, but honestly was a little bit annoying. So going with LightKey gives us a lot more flexibility with that. Now you can see also on this computer, we also have Spotify running over here, so we can use for walk-in music, etc. Up until we got this computer, we actually just had an iPad set up here, but I think this is gonna be a lot easier and a lot cleaner to manage. All right, moving down the row, we've got Pro Presenter. So if we take a look here, we have our M1 Pro MacBook Pro. We just recently got this and it was actually donated. I don't know that these are the exact specs that I would buy if I was speccing this out, but here we are. This is actually the laptop that we bring over to the theater on a Sunday morning and use with us in that room. We only have a single Pro Presenter license, so it's easy to just have this MacBook that we bring back and forth. If and when we decide to get a site license, I'll probably just throw another Mac Mini here. Now, this laptop is plugged directly into our Roland V1 HD video switcher. It's a nice little 4-input, 1-output little video switcher here, and you can see it's got it plugged into our multi-view here. We don't do a lot with this, but it gives us the flexibility to come from this Pro Presenter machine, go from this little Android TV Chromecast guy in case we need to play YouTube videos, or we actually have an HDMI port up on the stage itself, you know, just so that we can present from there if we need to. Now, both of these monitors are just standing on this little Vivo monitor arm. You know, it's clamped to the desk right there. Super easy. And this is a good time to mention, I will have links in the video description if you guys are interested in any of these things. None of it is super crazy, but you know, in case you're just struggling to find links, they'll be down there. Now, as far as that video switcher goes, again, it's that Roland V1 HD. We got this, again, 9 years ago, back in the day before, you know, the nice A10 minis the world existed. I think if we needed to upgrade this, I would probably go with something like that. We don't have big needs in this room, but it would be nice to have something a little bit more modern, something that matches the rest of our video equipment that we use in the other building. But this thing has been a workhorse, it gets the job done, but honestly, it's just not my favorite. One thing I also forgot to mention about our Mac Mini over here is that it also runs Logic and is plugged into the USB output on our soundboard here, so we can actually create multi-track recordings and do a virtual sound check. Now, if you use the SI Impact and you're like, hey, I've struggled to get virtual sound check set up, how on earth did you do that? Let me know down in the comments. I can make a quick video on it. It's kind of weird and involves actually just using cues that you're setting and recalling. It's weird, it works for us. You might be wondering, Josh, you've got a Mac Mini here, but where is the Mac Mini? And now I know a lot of people are out here talking about KVMs, and I think KVMs are awesome. What they're not talking about is that you can double your desk space if you use the bottom of your desk. Bum-ba-da-ba. Okay, that might have been the weirdest camera angle in the world, so let me just show you what I mean. Let's get down on the ground. So we actually just fastened a bunch of stuff to the underside of this desk using nice little 3D printed mounts for everything. I'm a big 3D printing nerd, so that was kind of nice. This isn't the best cable management in the world, but again, just like everything in this building, it gets the job done. And we have all of our different adapters, etc., mounted to the bottom of this tech booth. You know, sometimes when you don't have money, you just got to make do with what you've got, get things as clean as you can, and live with it. We're not upgrading these things every day, by no means, and we don't need to be plugging and unplugging things often. So being able to just mount them to the underside of the desk where they're out of the way, but they're accessible if we need them, is perfect for us. And I think it's probably perfect for a lot of people out there. Now, one piece of gear that I do think is kind of interesting down here is this. It is our DMX output from our Mac Mini. And I forget the exact model number, but it's a Chauvet Ethernet DMX adapter. I'm not a lighting guy, you guys, but what I can tell you is that this guy plugs into our network switch, and then it is discoverable on our network via ArtNet for light key running on our Mac Mini. And then out of this comes 2 DMX ports, and so you can run 2 separate universes, or one universe but going to 2 places acts as a splitter. It's like 150 bucks. Honestly, it's been rock solid for, you know, the 3 days I've had it plugged in over here, but I was having a lot of trouble with all the USB ones that I was trying to use, and it's kind of cool because if I really needed to, I could run light key over Wi-Fi and connect to this guy. Probably don't need to. But it also means that if I needed to move this to like a different room, I could do that too. But this is where our DMX drop was, so it just made sense to kind of run it here. The other couple things that are down here, in case anyone is interested, is actually an HDMI splitter. One of these is going to our projector, the other one is going to our TV that we have mounted up in the corner. It's not actually a confidence monitor, it's actually because we do worship in the round in here a lot, or run small groups, and it's really nice to have a screen in the back of the room so people don't have to turn around. And then also an HDMI to Ethernet adapter that we actually run up to our projector. Down here you will also find our little homemade rack that is housing our 3 microphones. They're all the SLX4 systems, pretty old, with a little RF Venue Distro 4 running to an antenna that you might have seen on top of the stage. Again, this is not the newest stuff, guys, but it gets the job done here in our room. And yeah, if you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a metal rack, turns out you can just buy a couple of rails here and build a little wooden box, put your stuff in it. Not only does it look kind of cool, it saves you a lot of money. Now, it's a lot more time, but here we are. Sometimes you trade time for money, and that's just what you got to do. Okay, so let's go take a look at our stage. And as we're walking, you can actually see that screen I was talking about. If my big head would get out of the way, there it is, mounted to our balcony. So there we go. Okay, so here's our stage. We had to expand it a little bit at one point. We outgrew it. It's still not big, but it gets the job done. That's like the phrase of this video is, it's not great, but it gets the job done. So if we're on our stage, you can kind of see the actual church auditorium. We've got all these nice chandeliers and house lights. Those are all DMX addressable, so we can control all of the different lights in here via DMX over light key now, but with our old controller before. So there's a few interesting things about the stage. They're not that crazy, but kind of the big points is we've got these nice little wall inset stage boxes with all of our XLR inputs and outputs running from our rack room, which I will show you in a minute. So here's the thing. This is awesome until it's not. Until one of these breaks, which one of our XLR ports or something in the chain broke, or when you want to hide cables, but hey, look, they all come out of the wall. You know, it's a really great idea in theory, but in practice, I don't love it. So probably don't do what we did here. Or if you do, make sure you can access the other side really easily, because I think these are actually all just run through the wall back to our rack room, which means you can't really get to the parts that are in between. But you know, it's all been working here. I don't mean to complain. That's not what I mean at all. I'm just saying, learn from some mistakes and some painful things that we've had. And luckily we do have this little, you know, gap in between the stage and the wall, which is really nice for hiding cables, but I wish it were a little deeper or we had a little bit more space to hide those cables, because especially with this room being multi-purpose, there's a lot of different cables getting moved all the time. They get tangled up down there. It becomes kind of tough. So make sure if your room is going to be multi-purpose and you're running things all over the place, but you want to be able to hide cables when you need to, make sure that you factor that in to your build. So we've got another one of those little stage boxes right here. Awesome. We've got a little HDMI port built into the wall right here, as well as some other cables coming out of the wall. So again, it's awesome. It gives us access on the stage, but it does create some difficulties. Now we've got our nice little drum kit over here. We rarely play it in here. That's mostly just in here for storage because we bring it next door for our Sunday morning services. So now let's go check out our rack room. We do have to walk through our little coffee bar, which also portable coffee cart, serving great espresso drinks. Awesome. Biggest, greatest thing that we brought to our church. So when I say rack room also, that is a very generous term. It's really a closet that has our single rack as well as every piece of audio musical gear that we could possibly cram into this room. So don't judge me for the mess that it is, but here we are. So we have a shelf over here with a bunch of gear, office gear, audio gear. We've got a cart here, you know, just like a plastic utility cart that has most of the audio gear that we actually bring over into the theater for our Sunday mornings. You know, we're blessed that we are somewhat of a mobile church, but with our own space. And also the space that we meet in for Sunday mornings is directly next door to our space. So we don't need like super fancy road cases or anything. We really just need anything with wheels. So you can see it's getting stacked pretty high. We should probably just get another cart one of these days, but this is where we're at. Keyboard, cables. I really need to organize those. Been thinking about that. Here's that old DMX controller I was telling you guys about. It just got ripped out of our tech booth, so now it sits here until I decide to officially get rid of it or try to sell it or something. Move this keyboard. Okay, so this is our rack here. We've got our little network switch that's running a few things around. Specifically, it runs back to the board. And then we actually have these guys, which is, they're little break-in boxes, so like stage boxes. The London Blue Bib by SoundWeb. You know, again, this is another thing that was installed by somebody 9 years ago. I don't personally love it. I think it's a little tricky to use. It's a lot of custom wiring on the back versus just, you know, normal XLRs, which I just would not recommend, especially for a smallish church that may need to change things or upgrade things in the future. But again, it's been serving us well, so can't complain too much, but it is a little bit less user-friendly than something else might have been. So all of those stage boxes actually come in the wall somewhere, you know, over here-ish, and then come up into this rack, into these guys, and then these get sent back over Ethernet back to our soundboard, and then we have to map all those inputs there. We have this big empty space because we used to have our wireless in-ears here, but now we take them over to the other building, but also use them here. So instead, you'll just find a couple extra empty ports where we plug them in anytime we bring them over here. A couple of drawers, and then our power distribution and amps for our PA. The other thing you'll find in here is a giant shelf with everything that we don't use and will never use. You just gotta look, be careful where your head goes in this room because it's tall, And there's a bunch of stuff in here. Honestly, we could go higher if we're just being honest here, but I really hope we don't. Okay, so like I said, that is our rack room, if you will, and it supports all of this on the stage. So that is the tech in our auditorium that we use, again, like I said, for small groups, student life, things like that. It's not gonna win any awards for the cleanest or the fanciest or even the most organized, but what it will do is get us by for 9 years with very few upgrades during that time, and also support us moving equipment in and out of this room, acting as a multi-purpose space. If you're watching all these videos online of these super awesome church auditoriums and all of the fancy gear that they have and all the money they spent on it and upgrading it, and they're doing it, and it seems like you must have to upgrade your church every 5 years if you want to stay up to date and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to do so, like, let me just be the first to tell you, if you're a smaller church or even like an average church, because I guess an average church is really only like 100 people or something, like, yeah, you need to spend some money, but you don't need to spend crazy money. This building has been awesome for us and has really, really served the Lord, served the people of our church, and served our community well. And it's going to continue to do so. We're gonna make some small upgrades here and there, but we're not buying the best of the best to do it. We're not breaking the bank to do it. And we're not even replacing everything I would like to replace to do it. That is rarely necessary. So I hope that you guys found that interesting. I hope it's encouraging to you that, you don't have to go crazy. And I hope that you hit that subscribe button down below to see more videos like this one. Until next time.